For a Roman, visiting a brothel lupanar is as common as going to the baths thermae, cheap, fast, and no moral turmoil. Prostitution in ancient Rome was first mentioned as early as the 7th century BC, shortly after the city was founded. And as the city's population grew, the more people traded their bodies. Roman law did not prohibit prostitution, even when it came to freeborn citizens of the Republic. Moreover, the law, following society, did not consider a man's going to a prostitute as adultery. However, this worked only in favor of men. If a husband caught his wife with a man, he had the right to kill him. This difference is explained by the fact that a man's liaison with a courtesan did not threaten unwanted offspring and the right of legitimate children to inheritance, whereas a wife's liaison, on the contrary, could result in the appearance of a child of foreign blood in a family. The easy societal attitude toward satisfying sexual needs through venal love, and the almost powerless position of many women contributed to the widespread prostitution. Slaves and poor Roman women served as an inexhaustible social base for this phenomenon. It is interesting that slaves were a minority of courtesans, as the masters usually found better uses for their slaves. They were mostly so-called meretrixes, mercenaries, lupatas. According to sources, their path to the pavement is similar to what many prostitutes experience even 2 millennia later: poor families, hard work, and the lure of easy money. One such story was told by the playwright Publius Terentius. About 3 years ago, a young woman in the bloom of youth, charming in herself, forced here from Andros by the want and indolence of her relatives. At first she lived honestly, meagerly and harshly, earning her bread by spinning and weaving. But when she found a lover who offered her money, and then a second and man is so inclined to replace work with pleasure, she agreed to the proposal and then made a real trade out of it. Prostitution was considered a disgrace, and prostitutes were considered unworthy. They were often mistreated by clients and procurers' pimps, beaten, insulted, and sometimes killed, and the law did not protect their health. But the risk and contempt of society compensated for the money. A successful courtesan with a not very greedy procurer could earn many times more than a decent commoner. In Rome in the 1st century AD, a man's good earnings amounted to 8–10 copper asses a day, and the services of the cheapest prostitute cost 2 asses as much as a cup of good wine or a poor man's dinner. In the middle segment, the price of sex reached 2 denarii, 1 denarii 16 asses, but usually did not exceed 1. A courtesan needed to serve several people in a day to earn more than the average Roman. Finding a prostitute was as easy as finding a water carrier or a butcher, maybe even easier. In the words of the poet Quinctius at a 1st century BC, they prowl the streets like wolves in search of prey. In the streets, clients were solicited by procurers, courtesans worked in taverns and baths, in bakeries and inns, waiting for clients in porticos near circuses and theaters, even near temples and cemeteries. At the entrance to a house or shop could be an inscription, as above the door of a house in Pompeii, Eutychia, a lovely Greek woman of kind treatment, to asses, or as near a Pompeian bathhouse, if you want to merge, turn to Attis, she will serve you for a denarius. On the walls of the houses, images of phalluses showed the way to the brothel. In Pompeii in the 1st century AD, with its 10,000 inhabitants, there was one large brothel with 10 rooms, and 9 other brothels with 1 room. In Rome, whose population could reach 1 million, there were more than 30 large brothels. At that time, the state began to levy a lot of taxes on prostitutes, and Caligula even opened a luxury brothel right on the Palatine, so as not to miss any profits. However, a typical Roman lupanar looked rather like the one discovered by archaeologists in 1862 in Pompeii, much less luxurious. Entering it, one could see what in Culpus, the hero of Petronius Arbiter's novel Satyricon, I saw inside some inscriptions and naked slutty girls, The client would go from the streets to the reception area, where he would choose a girl and then go down the corridor to one of several rooms, each only 2 square meters in size. Above the entrance to each cell were frescoes with sexual scenes. At the end of the corridor was a latrine. Each room had a stone or wooden bed with a mattress, a jug, and a basin of water. No windows or doors. Perhaps the cells were separated from the rest of the space with curtains, but no traces of cornices were found in the Pompeian lupanar. In general, the furnishings are rather crude, no romance. The brothel started working in the afternoon and finished in the early morning. The Roman nobility was not surprised by debauchery, but strangely enough, patricians did not usually go to the lupanaris. The rich usually used the services of concubines and slaves. The same goes for rich women. It is curious, however, that educated and even wealthy Roman women also sold their love, but they did it not as employees of the lupanar, but as kept women. That is, they chose a particular buyer and entered into an individual relationship with him. For this reason, Roman law did not consider them prostitutes. The law understood prostitution to mean only the public sale of the body, without choice, that is, anyone who wanted it. Therefore, there are very few noble prostitutes in the ancient Roman definition. But it did happen. The most scandalous example is Valeria Messalina, the third wife of Emperor Claudius. The most scandalous example is Valeria Messalina, the third wife of Emperor Claudius. If you liked the video, then don't forget to put a like and subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot of interesting, shocking, and exciting things ahead.